So, here's a pretty terrifying thought to start your day. You didn't fail to make progress today because you lacked talent.
Right.
And you certainly didn't fail because you lacked time.
Right. Definitely not a time issue.
Yeah, you likely failed because you spent like 8 solid hours efficiently checking off low-value boxes. And the worst part is your brain rewarded you for it anyway.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all know that scenario, right? It's 6 p.m. You've just ended this frantically busy day.
Exhausting.
Completely exhausting. You spent the last 8 hours answering messages, clearing out an absolute avalanche of notifications, checking off a dozen tiny tasks, putting out fires.
Like Elsa's fires, usually.
Exactly. But as you sit there, just sort of staring at your screen, this sinking realization washes over you. Despite all that frantic movement, you haven't moved an inch closer to your actual meaningful goals.
Yeah, you are totally drained, yet completely unfulfilled.
It is an incredibly common condition.
Yeah.
And it happens because our brains are fundamentally, well, they're easily tricked.
How so? Like biochemically?
Yeah, we are wired to seek out the immediate dopamine hit of task completion. So, responding to a trivial email, it gives you a reward that feels identical to completing a major piece of strategic work.
Wow. So the brain literally cannot tell the difference between mere motion and actual progress.
No, it can't, which leaves you expending maximum effort but seeing minimal return. It's the modern condition, you know, constant, exhausting motion without any true direction.
Which brings us perfectly to the mission of today's deep dive. We are exploring the VictoryWithAsh Master Knowledge Base today.
Specifically pulling apart their module on Refocus.
Right, the Refocus module.
Yeah.
Because the goal here is to bridge that gap, to help you move from being merely busy to being truly productive, shifting that scattered energy into intentional action.
Because we live in a culture that tricks us into wearing our busyness like a badge of honor.
Oh, we practically brag about it, like I'm so swamped, as if having zero free time is the ultimate metric of success.
It's a massive trap, and we desperately need to rethink our approach to daily execution. To dismantle that trap, we first have to look at the crucial difference between effort and effectiveness.
Right.
I mean, we live in a world engineered by thousands of very smart people whose sole job is to capture and monetize your attention.
Yeah, the source material points out a really profound reality here. Most people do not fail in their businesses or their health or relationships because they lack ability.
Exactly. Intelligence and opportunity are rarely the bottlenecks. People fail because their attention is entirely fractured.
Okay, so I know the whole magnifying glass starting a fire metaphor is like practically a requirement in every productivity book ever written.
It's a classic for a reason.
It is. But there's the mechanical reason it keeps getting brought up in this material. It isn't just a motivational image. It describes how we budget our cognitive load.
Right. When you hold a magnifying glass between the sun and a piece of paper, you aren't generating more sunlight.
You aren't magically creating more hours in the day.
Exactly. You're simply refusing to let the existing energy dissipate. That dissipation is the key. Focus doesn't create new energy, it directs it.
But what happens when we multitask? You know, people think they're efficiently juggling 5 things.
Yeah, in reality, you're experiencing what psychologists refer to as the cognitive friction of context switching.
Cognitive friction.
Right. So every time you switch your attention from a deep focused task to, say, a quick Slack message, your brain doesn't instantly pivot.
It leaves a tab open.
Exactly. It leaves a process running in the background. A piece of your cognitive capacity stays stuck on that message even after you return to your main task.
Oh, wow. So we are essentially walking around operating on like 60% of our mental RAM because we have way too many background tabs open.
Precisely.
But okay, let me push back on this a little bit.
Right.
Because the magnifying glass makes total sense in theory. But in the real world, my boss, my clients, or my family are constantly handing me more paper to burn.
So if focus is so obviously powerful, how does it actually survive under the immense external pressure to multitask?
Well, it survives by recognizing that the pressure to multitask is often an illusion of urgency, not a measure of importance.
Ah.
We confuse activity with progress because society rewards the appearance of hard work, right? Multitasking provides that continuous drip of cheap dopamine.
It feels good in the moment to say, look at all these plates I'm spinning.
Yeah, but you're just scattering your light. You're staying warm instead of starting a fire.
Yeah.
You have vast potential, but when you spread it so thin across 50 competing priorities, the mathematical result is just it's frustration and a glacial pace of progress.
Okay, so merely knowing that multitasking is a cognitive trap isn't enough to fix it. The sources point out that to genuinely change how we operate, we have to understand where focus fits into the larger architecture of personal transformation.
Right, you don't just wake up on a Tuesday and magically declare, I am a focused person now, not without having done the structural groundwork. Yeah, and the Victory with Ash framework argues that transformation operates in a very specific sequence. They break it down into 3 pillars: rise, reset, and then refocus.
And you cannot skip straight to refocus.
Right, so the first pillar, rise, that's fundamentally about a decision, isn't it?
It is. It's the moment you stop settling for less than your potential. You face your current reality without excuses, and you take ultimate responsibility for your outcomes.
It's basically drawing a hard boundary with your own complacency.
Perfectly said. From there, you move into the reset phase. And resetting is a deliberate, often painful realignment.
Because you're facing your own bad habits.
Yeah, it means auditing and actively removing the beliefs, environments, and coping mechanisms that no longer serve you. You cannot build a fundamentally different future while continuing to carry the exact habits that created your current problems.
So the reset clears the board.
Exactly. Only after you've taken responsibility and cleared those destructive habits can you effectively step into the third pillar, which is refocusing your energy toward what actually matters.
I want to build on the leaky hose analogy from the text because, again, while it sounds simple, the mechanics are brutal.
Oh, it's a great visual.
Right. So imagine your daily energy and time as a fixed amount of water meant to fill a bucket. Most people operate with a hose full of holes.
Yeah, your energy is leaking out everywhere.
Exactly. Into anxiety about the future, social media notifications, unnecessary arguments in the comments section.
Low-impact administrative work.
Yes. By the time your energy actually reaches the goal of the bucket, it's barely a drip.
Meanwhile, the person who achieves outsized results isn't using more water. They aren't working 25 hours a day.
They've simply patched the leaks.
Right. They are delivering a highly concentrated, high-pressure stream right into the bucket.
It reminds me of trying to drive a high-performance sports car with the parking brake securely engaged while, I don't know, simultaneously trying to scroll on your phone with one hand.
That's a perfect analogy.
You have the engine. The potential is sitting right there. But you are restricting your own forward momentum with bad habits. That's the parking brake.
And you have to actively take the brake off the reset phase before you can safely grab the wheel and steer the vehicle, which is refocus.
And you can't steer a vehicle that is fighting its own mechanical resistance.
Exactly. So once you take the brake off, the challenge becomes aiming that momentum. And the source material maps out 5 core principles for doing exactly that.
Right. And instead of just listing these out like a textbook, I think it helps to look at how they interact. The first couple of principles are really about defining the target. The text argues that clarity precedes focus, and that purpose creates motivation.
Yeah, they are deeply intertwined. You cannot hit a target you haven't clearly defined to your own brain.
Which makes sense.
When you wake up and just react to whoever yells the loudest in your inbox, your brain has to constantly expend energy deciding what is important in real time.
And that causes decision fatigue.
Exactly. But when you've identified one clear, overarching goal, you eliminate that cognitive drain. And when that goal is tied to a deep, meaningful purpose, like fundamentally altering the financial trajectory of your family, you build an emotional anchor.
That anchor is what keeps you sitting in the chair doing the hard work when the cheap distractions inevitably come knocking.
Which leads right into the second camp of these principles, protecting the momentum. The material is uncompromising on the idea that distraction destroys momentum and that consistency absolutely beats intensity.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate on that second point, though.
Sure, go for it.
Because we are constantly fed this hustle culture montage, right? The entrepreneur pulling 3 consecutive all-nighters to build an empire.
Right, the grind.
Yeah. So is 30 focus minutes a day actually enough to move the needle on a massive goal? Or is that just a comforting lie we tell ourselves when we're too tired to work a 14-hour day?
It's the biological reality of how skill acquisition and progress work. The sources are definitive here. Small, focused actions performed consistently will mathematically outperform sporadic, intense bursts of effort.
Wait, really? Mathematically?
Yeah. Let's look at the cost of the all-nighter. A 14-hour marathon session spikes your cortisol, it shreds your sleep architecture, and it usually requires 3 to 4 days of low-quality, exhausted recovery.
So you take 1 step forward and slide 2 steps back.
Exactly. So the intensity is actually a liability in a lot of cases, but 30 to 60 minutes of deep, uninterrupted focus every single day, that builds compounding momentum.
Because you stay engaged with the material.
Right. And more importantly, your brain continues to process the problem subconsciously between those daily sessions. You build a resilient neural pathway and a sustainable habit rather than relying on the wildly fluctuating emotion of motivation.
Consistency prevents the burnout cycle and creates a reliable engine for growth.
And obviously, all of this is governed by the final principle. Priorities dictate results. Creating value is infinitely more important than endlessly consuming information.
But this brings us to what I consider like the most fascinating pivot in the entire deep dive.
The implementation gap?
Yes. Because we have the blueprint now. We know we need clarity. We know we need to kill distractions, prioritize revenue-generating tasks, stay consistent.
So why do so many intelligent, capable people read these exact principles, nod their heads in total agreement, and then wake up tomorrow and change absolutely nothing about their lives?
That is the core frustration of human development.
It is, and the sources label it the implementation gap. We have to understand that in the modern era, personal and professional growth is rarely an inflammation problem.
Right. You have access to the sum total of human knowledge in your pocket right now.
Growth is almost exclusively an implementation problem.
It's the psychological chasm between knowing the path and actually walking the path.
Exactly. And the reason that chasm exists is tied right back to dopamine. Reading a book about focus or listening to an analysis of productivity, it tricks your brain.
How?
It provides the emotional satisfaction of doing work without requiring any of the actual friction or risk of failure that comes with real implementation.
Wow. So I feel productive just by listening to this, even if I don't do anything.
Right. Most people who are stuck do not lack intelligence or opportunity. What they lack is structural accountability, mentorship, and a supportive environment. Transformation only occurs when passive learning is forced into active execution.
The material places a massive emphasis on environment.
Yeah.
And it's a stark contrast to traditional self-help, you know?
Oh, totally.
The standard narrative is usually to isolate yourself, like go retreat to a cabin in the woods, rely purely on your own ironclad discipline, and figure it all out alone.
But this framework argues something completely counter to that. It leans into evolutionary biology. We are herd animals. We naturally match the baseline behaviors, standards, and expectations of the tribe we spend time with.
So you cannot out-willpower a negative environment.
No, you can't. If you're trying to cultivate deep focus and build a business or improve your health, but you're embedded in a social circle that celebrates distraction, complains constantly about circumstances, and mocks ambition, your willpower will inevitably deplete.
You'll regress to the mean of your environment.
Exactly. This is why the VictoryWithAsh community was established. It isn't just a networking group. It is a behavioral ecosystem.
Structurally designed to surround individuals with peers who hold them to an artificially high standard of integrity, dependability, and action.
It makes sense. Mentorship shortens the learning curve by preventing you from stepping on the same landmines your mentor already mapped out.
But the accountability piece, that's what bridges the implementation gap. Most of us know exactly what we should be doing. The struggle is doing it when no one is watching and when the couch is incredibly comfortable.
Right. Accountability removes the option to hide. When you are integrated into a community that expects you to be an action taker, the psychological friction of letting down your peers becomes greater than the friction of doing the hard work.
Success simply becomes the path of least resistance when you're supported by an environment that normalizes execution.
So if we take the power of that environment and these core principles, how does the source material suggest we translate this into an operational rhythm? Not some vague 10-year plan, but our immediate reality over the next 30 to 90 days.
Yeah, because the first 90 days are not about conquering the world, right? They're about stopping the leaks in the hose.
It's about reducing stress, increasing clarity, and cementing the foundational habit of focus.
And the applications are highly specific. Like in your career, it means shifting your energy away from mere presenteeism, just clocking in and out and refocusing on acquiring rare skills that increase your leverage and value.
In business, it demands the ruthless prioritization of revenue-producing activities over comfortable administrative busy work.
And I imagine it extends beyond just the financial metrics, right?
Oh, absolutely. In your relationships, refocusing means having the discipline to leave your phone in another room and offering your full, undivided cognitive presence to your partner or children.
Wow, just putting the phone away.
Yeah. In your health, it means abandoning the chaotic search for the perfect 30-day fad diet and focusing instead on the boring, consistent execution of basic daily habits.
And in personal growth, it means stepping out of the endless cycle of consuming podcasts and books and spending that time actually applying the lessons.
To structure this, the material maps out an operational rhythm that you can initiate the minute this audio ends.
Okay, let's hear the steps.
It starts with identifying your single most important goal, not 5, 1.
One goal.
Then you audit your reality by listing your biggest distractions. And you have to be brutally honest here. Is it an addiction to short-form video? Is it a toxic relationship that drains your emotional reserves? Is it a chaotic workspace?
Right.
Once you audit those distractions, the immediate action step is to remove just one of them today. You don't overhaul your entire life in an afternoon. You pick one leak and you patch it.
Then what?
Then you treat your focused work time with the same reverence you would treat a meeting with an investor. You block it on your calendar and you review your execution at the end of every single week.
The text also poses a few reflection questions that I highly recommend sitting with. They ask, what specific goal deserves your uncompromised attention right now? And how drastically would the trajectory of your life change if you maintained unbroken consistency for just the next 12 months?
Powerful questions.
But the question that hit me the hardest was simply, what should I stop doing?
It's the principle of subtraction by addition. We are so obsessed with adding new routines, new software, and new responsibilities to our lives to feel productive.
Exactly. We think success is about doing more. But having the courage to actively abandon a low-value task, to look at a project, a habit, or an obligation, and explicitly say, this is no longer serving my ultimate goal, and I am cutting it out of my life today.
That takes immense clarity.
It is the ultimate leadership move you can make in your own life. You are adding massive value by forcefully subtracting the noise.
Because your potential, no matter how vast, means absolutely nothing if it remains scattered across 50 different unfulfilled intentions. Potential only transforms into impact through intentional, disciplined, and focused action.
The entire journey starts with a decision to rise.
It requires the reset to clear out the limiting habits.
But the engine that actually drives you toward the life you want is refocus. Focus creates momentum, momentum creates tangible progress, and progress is the only thing that creates lasting transformation.
I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to mull over as you transition back into your day. Look closely at the last 3 things you spent your cognitive energy on before listening to this.
The last 3 tasks you tackled, the last conversation you had, or the last app you opened.
If your life was a garden and your focused attention was the water, what exact future are you watering right now? Are you accidentally watering the weeds of distraction and comfort? Or are you intentionally watering the deep roots of your most meaningful long-term goals?
It is the ultimate diagnostic test. Because the framework reminds us of one unavoidable truth. Your future will inevitably grow wherever your attention consistently flows.
If you want to join the Victory with Ash community, use the link available in the description.
Growth simply becomes easier when people learn, grow, and stay accountable together. You do not have to fight the implementation gap in isolation.
Surrounding yourself with a growth-focused environment is often the single variable that separates those who merely talk about transformation from those who actually achieve it.
Thank you for patiently listening to this episode. I appreciate your time, your attention, and your commitment to becoming a better version of yourself. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep moving forward.
Your potential is a quiet promise. Your focus is a loud action that keeps it.